The All-Star break is over, and we're now in the second half. It's time to buy in on some players and sell some players on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're getting your audio source, make sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and a review. It really helps out the show. And if you want a little bit more than we offer in this 30-minute podcast, make sure to check us out on the Insider Track. We offer all exclusive perks just to those members. Plus, don't you want to get advantage on your league? Check us out. Links in the description below. All right, let's get into it. I got a great show for you today, and I'm taking a different approach to this episode. So some of these guys are still in the same method, right? We're going to try and sell the overperforming players. And then I have other guys that I feel are just going to have a stagnant second half that isn't going to have the ceiling or a solid enough floor to push you over the finish line. And that is the approach I'm taking in the second half, is I'm going to sell high name players right off the bat and, hopefully move them on and go with namesake to get a return that I feel is going to push us over the limit and over the finish line to then take home that championship. And let's dig in with it. Let's start off with Freddie Freeman. Surprising, right? He's having a good season, right? 47 runs, 10 bombs, 49 ribs, a stolen base batting .292 on the season. Last 2 weeks, I mean, yeah, you got the All-Star break, whatever, but like, wasn't hot even leading up to it. In all honesty, he's been a little bit rough, but hey, it is what it is. Do I think Freddie Freeman is going to lose out on the batting average? No. Runs? No. Ribbies? No. But the power has taken a significant dip. And we've been seeing this trend over the last 2 years. Right? Last time he hit 30 home runs was back in, 2021. 23 was pretty good, though, at 29. I'll take that. And it was a really good year. He had, 131 runs and 102 ribs that year, along with 23 stolen bases. But since then, 22 home runs last year. And now we're in the second half of 2025 and we're at 10 home runs. And that pace can literally repeat last year. But now we're not cracking 100 runs. Now we're not cracking 100 ribs. The batting average is under 300. And, there's a world too where if he repeats last year, right, with a little bit less ribbies, which I kind of feel might happen because just the team as a whole isn't doing as well. It's really just Ohtani leading the way. Mookie Betts is on a downward spiral. Freddie Freeman's just hasn't, is kind of fighting against, father time at age 35. And I feel there's higher upside guys. So what I did this weekend, which, I got a little bit more. I paid a little bit more, but I didn't have to pay too much because Freddie Freeman was in the deal. And I swapped Freddie Freeman for Pete Alonso. And then, I threw in a little something, something, and a little something else was done. And I not only got the younger guy who I feel has the higher power numbers, was definitely having the better season. And I just made out like a bandit in that trade. Now, what am I going to do if I'm trading for Freddie Freeman? Well, first, obviously, I'm going to try and get a first baseman. I'll give a little bit insider information later in the show. Vinnie Pasquantino is one of the guys on the show that we're going to be talking about trying to buy. Try and slip him in the deal that will replace you at first base. See if you can get a Nick Kurtz. That's another guy I'm trying to target in trades. Freddie Freeman is a guy that's a namesake, and you probably could get it done. Now, you're not just doing Freddie Freeman for Nick Kurtz. You're going to try and get more assets. Even though I feel like at this point, the way Nick Kurtz is playing, it's good. He's good, but I don't like, you might be looking at me crazy. Like, oh, I would do that. Like if I could get that, but no, like think about it this way. This is Nick Kurtz' first look at the bigs. There's always an adjustment. He could fall off a cliff. So like, it's not just him I'm going after. I'm going after him and then a few other pieces that could fill holes on my team. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to kind of not only sell on the name that I feel is underperforming as a whole, especially for the draft price we paid. Two, who has a super high stock value in terms of, namesake, and I want to sell that and I want to capitalize on it. And that's the purpose of selling Freddie Freeman at this point. By no means is there anything in the underlying stats that's going to say, hey, this dude's going to turn around and hit 27 home runs. Average exit velocity is about the same as last year. Um, Actually, a little bit better, but not as, nothing to really, scratch at. It's probably about the same as 2023, except the pace is just not there. But the big things that are just like screaming at me is how often he's chasing, how often he's whiffing, how often he's striking out, how little he's walking in comparison to the previous years. Bat speed has never been something that really you can count on with him, so it's not a stat I follow. But the hard contact is down. You know, the xWOB is down. The expected batting average is significantly lower than the batting average on the season. It's just there's other things that are just telling me, hey, Freddie Freeman isn't going to have the second half that you're hoping for. And it's time to get out now. And he'll still have a decent finish, but he isn't going to be a top 25 player by the end of this year, if we're really being honest with ourselves. So let's move on now and capitalize on that stock before it's too late. Let's move on. This one's a tough pill for me to swallow and to talk about, but Tanner Bybee, a name that I love, a name that, ultimately he's going to be a tougher name to move, but at the same time, to a team that's lost a lot of pitching, that's trying to build themselves back. He is a name that you can float and get a guy or two and kind of fill a hole or a need. Like Bybee is probably one of your, not so great pitchers on your team who's super inconsistent this year. And you can then trade him for a decent name because he has namesake value. Tanner Bybee has been an industry, coined player that should be breaking out. Now, this is the risky part of trading Tanner Bybee. This second half could be amazing, and this could be the start of the breakout. So it does come with some risk. I'm not going to say, hey, just do this, and there's no chance of him figuring it out. Like, no, there is a world where this happens too. But right now, for me and the Tanner Bybee owners, I'm not really like going to care at this point. I need to find a way to fill holes, and if I have excess pitching or I just can't deal with the ups and downs of what Bybee's doing to my, numbers this year, I need to capitalize on that, and I need to trade him while the value's still hot. Because of the namesake. And the same thought process on the other side of, hey, what if there's the second half? Somebody's going to try and cash in on that. You don't give them away for free, but you try and get something that's equivalent, whether you're filling a bat or you're getting an arm or two that, might be able to figure things out. Bybee is just struggling this year. Fastball's flat, off-speed pitches are flat. The expected batting average against him is 239, which is great, and the expected ERA is at 364 versus the 442. But it doesn't always line up or is the mean. It's more of like, hey, this is what he should be pitching, but it's not really happening out on the stat sheets. He's not really getting guys to chase. He's not really getting guys to whiff. He's not really striking guys out. Like these are things that are just disappointing to be an owner of his. Last year was a step in the right direction where the Caper inning was well over it. And now you're looking at it and he's about 20 under, almost 20 under, and it's not good. Things he is doing correctly is ground balls, getting good extension, suppressing the hard contact, not really walking guys, but the whip is still a 1.25. So there is still some struggles there. And Bybee is just a guy I'd rather move on, and I'd rather see if I can capitalize on the name and see what I can do. Now, it's a matter of choice. I think that if we move on from Bybee, might be for the better. That's why he's on this show. But I wouldn't fault you for disagreeing or just hanging on and being conservative to want to see if there's that second half. If not, you've been dealing with it and you're in a position where you can lead into it. Or like, who cares? Like, hey, I'm sitting in first and I'm pretty much locked in, and I'd rather risk it to get the biscuit and see if Tanner Bybee can just turn it around, right? Right. So we'll see. Me personally, I'm moving on. But all right. Coming up next, I got guys like Willie Adamus and Rafael Devers. How do I handle them? Do I capitalize on the last month that Willie Adamus has had? And Rafael Devers was it really just a bad fit in San Francisco, or is just a bad turn of events for just Rafael Devers overall? That's all coming up next. Summer sports are in full swing, whether into baseball under the lights, Golf on the green or high stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You already follow the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can bet on your favorite game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach, like me. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh and new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast payouts, and makes it even regular season games feel like a must watch event. Whether I'm placing same game parlays or watching a bet ride into the ninth, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit fanduel.com to get started today. All right, I mentioned at the top, if you want a little bit more than when we offer in this 30-minute podcast, make sure to check us out on the Insider Track. The Insider Track is going to be your best way to have the leg up on your league mates. Honestly, look, you want prospect call-up notifications ahead of everybody? We're your spot. You want to, know who to prioritize on, waiver wire episodes? That's the place to be. You want to know who you should trade and things like that. And if you have questions, we'll answer them in 24 hours. So check us out. Links in the description below. All right, let's get back into it. Like I promised before the break, Willie Adamus, shortstop for the San Francisco Giants. Now, he has had a good 2 weeks. 5 runs, 3 bombs, 5 ribs. Batting average is in the toilet over the 2 weeks, but over the last week, 2 runs, 2 bombs, 2 ribs, 273 batting average. And as we're recording now, he's going 2 for 3 and already has a rib. So he's heating up. Now, thing about Willie Adamus, I don't really care. I had him pegged as a bust. We're seeing it coming to fruition now with the season stats. Honestly, like the landing spot was, I think, a massive point of what's going on here. The fact that we're seeing, only 14 home runs on the season, where he was on a 32 home run, where he had 32 homes last year, only 4 stolen bases this year. The batting average is literally 30 down. It's a 223 versus a 251. The OBP is down, the slug is down, the OPS is down. Everything about his game is down. And yeah, it's also, one of my rules, first year on a new team is definitely, usually downward play. But Thomas, I feel, age 28 breakout, in my opinion, because he had the 251 batting average, first time he's crossing 30 home runs, having a lot of stolen bases in that same year. And it's a career stolen base season as well. It just doesn't feel like, hey man, like this is what we're going to see from him, for his whole entire career. It was a one-off, and we've seen this time and time again. Willie Adames is no exception. So for me, I'm going to try and move on. I'm going to try and trade him to a guy that doesn't own a shortstop or doesn't have an elite one. See if I can get Willie Adames to attract him. Now you're going to have to, if you want like a higher end player and you're not just filling it with like a good pitching role or things like that to upgrade your rotation, then you're going to have to add something else in. But Willie Adames is definitely somebody you want to trade away. Let's move on. So we got Rafael Devers. And man, he opened up like a bat out of hell, but then just couldn't get it going. I mean, over the last month, 9 runs, 2 bombs, 9 ribs, batting 212. It's just not looking good for Devers. Look, all the little baby stuff that we were hearing of him not wanting to play first and now him getting traded over here, things just haven't looked great, even with the underlying stats looking like they might turn it around. Like, yeah, the average exit velocity is 93.6 miles an hour. He's barreling 15.6% of the time, creating hard contact 56.3% of the time. The xWOB is at 381. The expected batting average is at 260, which is a little bit better. But launch angle's in the toilet. Bat speed, whatever. Not really squaring up. He's not really chasing, which is good, but he's still whiffing and striking out. But yes, he's walking. These are things we're struggling with here. Like, it's not a complete thing. And not for nothing, it's not like he has the short porch like he did in Boston. He's now in San Francisco. So I think the power takes a little bit of a step back. Also, new year, new team. These are things that are just not working in his favor. He's really not hitting the fastball well. He's hitting it at a batting average of 247. Last year was hitting at 266. hitting the breaking ball great this year at 337, but the off-speed pitches are crushing him. 155 batting average, whereas last year he was hitting 305 against it. So things are down for him as a whole with all the turmoil and things going against him on being on Boston and then carrying over onto San Francisco. I just don't think that we're going to get the ceiling play that we want out of Rafael Devers, which is why I'm going to trade him before the stock plummets. So for me, Devers needs to be moved. And it's just one of those things where I can't in good conscience keep him on my team anymore. Thing is, third base is shallow. And it's going to be hard to replace. So hopefully you can get a third baseman that's pretty decent. And then on top of that, get rid of him and fill some holes and then get production from multiple players. Whereas I think Devers is just on a downward spiral. Let's move on. Let's switch over. Actually, only had 4 names that I want to sell high on this week, and I want to buy in on 6 players. I was just too consumed by the names that were available out there that I think we can go out and acquire. And let's start off with Wyatt Langford, outfielder for the Texas Rangers. And Langford, is a guy that we've been waiting for the breakout period. Like since that incredible spring training last year, you know, just where has it been? Now he's been hot over the last 2 weeks, 8 runs, 2 bombs, 7 ribs, 4 stolen bases, batting 263, but the season numbers are atrocious. And in stints, we get the flashes of what we think he could be. Now, the thing is, I don't think the price is going to be that outrageous. Yes, people paid up. Yes, people are, still super high, but I don't think we're going to have to pay, especially in the redraft leagues. Dynasty keeper leagues might be a little bit more of a price to pay. So you might not want to go after him, but in redraft leagues, this is where I'm targeting. I'm trying to go for depth. I'm trying to see if I can get that upside and make that splash play. But I'm also not trying to pay a lot either because this can backfire. He can just do exactly what he did last year, which it wasn't impressive. Now he's on a better home run play pace and a better stolen base pace, but the batting average is in the toilet. The runs are on a better pace as well, and so are the ribs, but still, even though it's a better year, it isn't enough to say, hey, this guy is worth spending sun, moon, and stars. Like the Webb is at 335. The expected batting average is 241. The expected slug is a 442. The average exit velocity is good at 91 miles an hour. Is barreling 12.3% of the time, creating hard contact 46% of the time. And I would just like to see him stop chasing and stop whiffing as much as stop striking out. Now, this might come with the second half. Maybe he adjusts and sees, hey, I can make this adjustment. I could stay in the bigs and I could be effective. Let's see. But right now, the confidence isn't there, especially with 34 walks and 94 strikeouts. Points leagues, I'm probably not touching him with a 10-foot pole just based off of how often he just strikes out. But in these head-to-head category leagues or even in cats, he's worth a shot at trying to acquire because there is a chance where he just decides to turn it on. We see that true breakout, and that is the thing I want to kind of buy in on. So I want to see if I can acquire Wyatt Langford and see, hey, is this going to do it? But at worst, he's a depth piece, and you're just like, okay, cool. It didn't really pan out. But when I have to play him, it's not the worst thing. I feel a little bit more confidence than rolling out some random dude off the waiver wires, waiting for him to get hot. When Langford's hot, you roll him in. So we'll see. But all right, coming up next, I got Logan Gilbert, I got Logan Webb, and even a little Hunter Greene action. We're trying to buy in, and I'm going to tell you why. Coming up after. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had no service in an emergency, like a burst pipe. If the plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope. You called the next one because there's water in my living room. That's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Did you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone solves that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to a customer like in a shared box. No more, who's handling this? Who's got that guy? I don't know. Now it's an AI agent handling after-hour calls, answering common questions, and capturing leads so you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Fantasy Baseball listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have an existing number with other services, OpenPhone will port that number over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, sorry, I had to get a drink of water. Let's get back into it. Like I mentioned before the break, Logan Gilbert. Now, Logan Gilbert starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, and Gilly over here, Gilly, love the nickname. Still one of my favorite pitchers in the league. Is having a little bit of a rough go over the last month, which makes him acquirable. Not saying you're going to be able to get him cheap or sell one of these sell high players, etc. Right? Like no. It's going to cost, but he's worth the price. Okay. He is a guy that could be a game-changing person for your rotation. Let's review what he did last year. Okay. Logan Gilbert in 27, and 24, a 208 innings pitched, 220 strikeouts, a 3.23 ERA with a .88 WHIP. Looked absolutely stellar. Really, really crushed it. On top of that, you looked at everything under the table, under the hood, and everything was great. He had great movement on his fastballs, break balls, off-speed pitches, everything lined up. Everything. This year, things have taken an interesting spin. And by spin, I mean no spin. Fastball's a little flat, breaking ball's a little flat, but the off-speed pitch is looking great. But here's the thing. These are the things that I also kind of count on as well. Expected ERA, a 3.02, whereas he's sitting at 3.39 on the season. Now, yeah, last month, whatever, but things are better, looking to look better. The expected batting average against him is 214. Fastball velocity is at 95.4. Biggest issue is average exit velocity against him is 90.6. And he's a guy that gives up home runs to begin with. And, that needs to come down, which I think is part of the inflated ERA. He is getting guys chasing 32% of the time, creating a whiff 35% of the time, striking out guys 35% of the time. He still is over a K per inning on the season. The whip is still pretty decent at 105, but it could be better. This last month is really just the part that's making him acquirable. So 25 innings pitched, 34 strikeouts, a 4.56 ERA with a 1.4 whip. This can get somebody nervous, especially going into the playoffs. So I'm willing to trade for him and pay up and try and acquire him because I think, he's going to return to the mean, and him being acquirable, which means at a discount, not giving up a stud for a stud, it's kind of where it is. Now you'll be able to give up multiple guys that you won't miss as much that are overperforming to go out and get Logan Gilbert. Trying to target him when you're moving Freddie Freeman isn't a bad deal. When you're moving Devers or, these are the guys are the names that you can move that'll draw in a name like this, especially if there's a need at that position on that team. So trying to get Logan Gilbert. I promise it's going to be a better half, and he's actually acquirable right now, but let's move on. So about Logan Webb. Another San Francisco Giants starting pitcher. Now, Logan Webb is one of my favorite pitchers in the league. Ultimately, he's having a good season, like a really good season, but started off like a real bat out of hell. Killed it. But again, a guy that has kind of fallen back and has had a really bad month. 5.04 ERA on the month with a 1.52 whip over 30 innings. And now below a K per inning where he was starting to show off, hey, he can have that K per inning and then some for the first time in his career. Normally he's always been well under a K per inning. He's just an innings eater. He always pitched 200 innings. But now he's starting to show this off, and I was hoping it was going to continue. We're seeing things, and do I still think that's a possibility? Absolutely. I love Logan Webb. I have full confidence in him. Look, a bad month doesn't define him for me. I just think that, hey, again, same argument I'm using for Logan Gilbert is the same thing I'm going for Logan Webb. And, just funny, I'm talking about Logan's all up and down the side here, but, it's time to go out and get yourself a Logan, essentially. So, you look at just what he's done over the last, this year. April, he had a 2.83 ERA. May, he had a 2.81. June, he had a 2.32. July just got smoked. And I think we can kind of acquire him because you know what? If you've owned Logan Webb in the past, he's always been good just not this good. You know, he's not a guy that's going to go and, you know, consistently finish sub 3. He's like a 3.25 ERA to a 3.5 ERA. Sometimes you throw in those 3 ERAs and one season under 3, but he's a mixed bag of tricks. And then you look at what the FIP posts, and it's usually a little bit better. But then you look at the expected ERAs, and it's a common thing of ups and downs with Logan Webb and where he could finish. But ultimately, people know who he is, and he's definitely been air quotes pitching above his britches. But ultimately, he's still worth acquiring. I think you can get him now. He's acquirable because that hot start is now flaming out. People might be frustrated. It's time to pounce. Let's move on. Talk about Hunter Greene, starting pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. Now, this one, you're buying a guy on the IL that's soon due to return. Now, the ownership definitely has dipped because he's been on the IL a few times this year. And on top of that, he just is a little infuriating because he can't stay healthy, but still out there in about 5% of leagues. So take a look. If he's out there, you're picking him up. But he's supposed to return soon. He's already getting moved up, going up to AAA for a couple rehab starts. Probably get 2 more. But like this is the time to go out and try and acquire him. To start the season, he was the best pitcher in the game this year, hands down. 59 innings pitched, 4 wins, 73 strikeouts, a 2.72 ERA, 0.97 WHIP, like truly crushing it and just really showing out. Everything I wanted from him was just coming. Awesome movement on all his pitches except his off speed. Fastball velocity was averaging 99 miles an hour. Expected ERA was a 2.95. Expected batting average was a 2.08. He was getting guys to whiff. He was getting them the chase, strikeout, everything. Everything. Just was walking guys just a little too much. But I mean, not walking guys too much. I'm sorry. Just not creating enough ground balls for a guy that pitches in Cincinnati. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong spot. But I like everything about his game right now. Him, when he comes back, is going to be a game changer for your rotation. So I'm going to go out and try to acquire him because this is the difference maker, and people might not be able to lean on the other guys in their rotation. So trade like a Bybee and see if you can get Hunter Greene and see if you can get some more. Is they might be in the need of somebody now. And that's really where it is. So I'm trying to go out and get Greene. Let's move on. Let's go and get Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, another starting pitcher. And quite honestly, Gray is a guy I do want to go out and get because he's just been good for so long. Him and those St. Louis Cardinals probably aren't the best place to, go out and get wins, but who cares? Let's go out and get QSs. Let's go out and just have good games, right? And now, the last couple of starts haven't been hot. Got lit up in Detroit against Arizona. Got lit up against Pittsburgh, but then has been pretty consistent. But then Milwaukee and Arizona again and Philly. Like he gets popped, but not enough to scare me away. I kind of want him because I think that this dude, 1, is obtainable. 2, has had a career where I just feel confident in the skills that is Sonny Gray. And 3, the upside outweighs a lot of pitchers probably in your rotation right now. So why not go after a guy like Sonny Gray that could probably, be a much better arm to lean on as a solution. So I'm trying to acquire him wholeheartedly, and I feel you should too. But let's move on. Let's talk about Vinnie Pasquantino, first baseman for the Kansas City Royals, our last guy for the day. Now, he's had a very up and down, very bipolar season, but season numbers aren't atrocious. 382 at bats, 38 runs, 15 bombs, 57 ribs, a stolen base, batting 267. Obviously, hasn't been a picture of consistency or anything of the sort, but there's things I like, and I'm just waiting to see if it can turn around. Now, he's cheap. He's being dropped in league, so he might be out there. But he's a guy, if first baseman is lacking, or if, you just haven't been able to make up for the ground loss this year, he's a guy you want to add. Let alone, it's probably even a guy that I would start in my UT or a corner infield position. A guy that has some serious power upside that I think can hit 30 home runs this season, that I think is on a team that's good enough to provide the ribs and a batting average that's still showing out at 267. I think he's probably going to be more like a 260, 255 hitter, everything said and done, especially even though the expected batting average is kind of on par at 265. So we'll see where this kind of goes. Last season he hit 262 for obviously going down to an injury. I mean, since coming back from the injury. So we'll see. Vinnie Pasquantino is a guy I'm definitely trying to target and see if we can get it going with him. I think he could be a very, very nice second half player for you. Guys, that's all for today. So please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this show. And make sure you're just helping us out and join us on the Insider Track. And when you're done, Locked On Fantasy Baseball is so happy to have you as our first listen every day. Make our second listen every day. The Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. That being said, guys, peace out. Have a great day.